So the reason I wanted to, well, let me back up. So my name's Doug Hunt, Director of Entrepreneurship with the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm passionate about helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and anybody that's in business discover all the resources that we have, not only at the Chamber, but in the entrepreneurial ecosystem within the greater Joplin metro area. And watching businesses start and grow and thrive and hire people is something that's near and dear to my heart, but it's also a foundation to our community and something we can celebrate. Along those lines, today I want to share a couple things. One is a state of the state for the Joplin, or for the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, in addition to some opportunities for new businesses and startups for possible seed funding that you may not know otherwise. So regarding the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, this is a legacy building that we are just absolutely blessed to have in our community. When you look back at what the late Joe Newman's vision was around 1999 or 2000, when he told the community we needed to have a business incubator, everybody asked him what that was. And for him to take that vision and yet pass away shortly before the grand opening and the building being named after him, he also has the nickname of the godfather of economic development for Joplin, because Joe spearheaded and ran all of our efforts that created the Joplin Webb City Industrial Park, as well as the shell buildings, everything that we did that have got economic growth from 1985 until today. You can look back at that and say, Joe Newman had a hand in that. And what's beautiful about it is even though he's passed away, his vision continues to bear fruit. And let me give you just a little example of what that is with what the Joseph Newman Innovation Center has cranked out in the 3 short years that I've been in this position. I have watched several different companies create more than 50 full-time positions. And some of those businesses, one being Next Generation Diagnostics, Next Gen Diagnostics, there's also Unearth Potential, there's Power Engineers, there is Power Shades, and everybody knows about Midwestern downtown. Midwestern, we were able to help them in 2021 when they were going through a massive growth phase, and they just didn't have capacity. So the Joseph Newman Innovation Center was there to help them bridge that gap from one to the other, truly meeting the mission of the Joseph Newman Innovation Center as a tech startup hub, but also being an incubator for any business in general. Next Gen Diagnostics started with 2 people in a small office in the Advanced Training and Technology Center. They qualified to be in that building because a lot of their clients were LMI, low to moderate income. And then as they grew, they moved into a larger office over at the Joseph Newman Innovation Center. They continued to grow to the point where they graduated out, which is the term used for business incubators, and they bought a 5,000 square foot building and now have more than 20 full-time employees. When you think about your chamber member investment, or when you think about things that we're doing in the community to rally around helping support those startups and small businesses, we have hardcore quantitative data that's showing that it's working. And so if Joe can look down and see where we're at with what he envisioned, and I know his wife Sarah loves it too, to see how that legacy continues, that's something that we need to continue to feed for decades long after we're gone. So with Next Generation, Next Gen Diagnostics, they are over in Duquesne now, but they have their own facility. There's also another new business that's moved in that's been there about a year. They are Power Engineers, they're electrical engineers. They started with 2 individuals. They now have hired 8 full-time people, and they are in growth mode. And then of course we have Philip, who's starting his new business, and he will be in the Joseph Newman Innovation Center starting December 1. So big, small, tiny, whatever, we've got something for everybody. Also at the Joseph Newman Innovation Center in 2021, we converted 2 of our main suites into Co-working East and Co-working West. This allows anybody to come in. You can come in on a day pass for $20, hang out, get online, and do business. If you want to come in and just grab any seat that's open, without an assigned seat or area. That's called a hot desk. That's $150 per month, no long-term commitment. If you want a permanent location, like your own cubicle, where you'd put a picture of your family and that's your space, that's $250 a month, and all of those are no long-term commitment. So we don't do long-term leases. And interestingly, we do that also for the private space office as well. So for example, power engineers, when they moved in, I think they pay $1,200 or $1,300 a month, but they did not have to sign a 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year lease, typically like the open market. And the reason for that is that the mission of the Joe, or the Nick, depending on what generation you're speaking with, the mission is to help small business. So if you are a small business and you get up and running and you're 3 or 4 months into it, and you may need to go to the bank and establish a line of credit. Maybe you have a new client that comes on board and they have a particular need that you have to buy equipment for. If you're tied into a long-term lease, you are less likely to get a line of credit due to your debt to income ratio and what's on your books is a liability. When they can go to that banker and say, no, there's not a commitment for the balance of this lease, then that helps them. So we operate not in a spirit of like, hey, we've got to get to occupancy and crank out cash. We are blessed with the fact that the Joseph Newman Innovation Center has been paid off for a long time now. And that is because of the fiscal, conservative, focused attitude of the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation Board. And the fact that we are where we are now is something to be very proud and thankful for. The reason I have Missouri Technology Corporation up on the screen, their website, is that the Joseph Newman Innovation Center has had from the beginning, close relationship with the MTC. A little bit of background about MTC. The Missouri Technology Corporation is a 501c3 set up by the Missouri General Assembly, which is the term Missouri calls for our state legislature. The General Assembly set aside monies on an annual basis and provide a budget to the MTC to operate as a third party to funnel money into the statewide entrepreneurial network. So in addition to the Joe, or what we had with the Advanced Training and Technology Center in Springfield, there's the E-Factory. If you have an opportunity when you're in Springfield, I encourage you to stop in and visit the E-Factory. It's basically what the Joseph Newman Innovation Center is, only at about 75,000 square feet. The Joseph Newman Innovation Center is 2 stories with 11,000 square feet. And Rachel Anderson, the director over there, does a fantastic job. So that's just one of many incubators that the MTC helps support. So on an annual basis, I do paperwork and fill out everything that we need and do reporting back to the MTC, and we apply for funding that helps us offset the salary for me or whoever's in the position I'm in now, and helps fund some of the operation for the building. And it's not cheap. I think we're spending $800 a month just to keep Kone on retainer, which is the company that services the elevator. So there is overhead. But that's what's beautiful about everybody in there. Anytime I give a tour for somebody that's a new startup or a new business, yeah, it's okay. I don't mind sounding like the old man in the room. But I share with them when I started my first business. And I sat down with Nick Kanakis and my hand was shaking because I was signing a 1-year lease for 1,000 square feet at 216 and a half Main Street. His mother, Arlene, lived up above. You remember those days, Peggy. And I was scared to death. Well, the very next month, I got my electric bill and it was $803. And I went into the bathroom and threw up. Because when you start a new business, you are trying to make ends meet. And when I jumped off the entrepreneur cliff, and we all know the definition of an entrepreneur is you jump off the cliff and build a parachute on the way down, right? I did that. But when I got that first electric bill, it's like I hit a boulder on the way down and bounced before I could like think through the parachute. And because when I jumped and brought 2 W-2 employees with me. So not only was I making a commitment to a lease, I was also making a commitment to salaries. And I didn't take any money out of the business for more than 12 months and just fed into it. And I look back now, and had the Joseph Newman Innovation Center existed as it does today, it would not have taken me 3 years to get to the point where I didn't wake up in the middle of the night with dry tears going into my ears, or have heart palpitations and what the balance was in the bank. So this is an investment in individuals that are starting their businesses, that are taking that leap and are scared to start their business. It helps mitigate as much risk as possible. Because guess what? When you're in the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, Philip, you will never have to pay an electric bill. You will never have to pay a high-speed internet bill. You will never have to buy toilet paper, which is an expensive thing when you have a staff of about 7 people, by the way. So when you look at all those line items down the list, it is a huge, huge thing. But I digress, because I started talking about Missouri Technology Center and I went back. Can you tell I'm passionate about the Joseph Newman Innovation Center? It does a great thing. So the MTC has a couple of things that are available. So do you mind driving that for a second? Lowell, please. Thank you, sir. You're a gentleman of scholar. So under venture capital investments on the nav bar on the far left side, there is the, if we go down to Idea Fund 2024 award cycle, the MTC, and the actual budget escapes me right now, but the General Assembly sets aside and the governor approves a block of money that goes into them. They are charged with creating, not only providing funding for the incubators, but also having a designated amount of money that goes out in grants. And that's where it's a plus for small businesses and startups. So when you think about when you pay your state taxes, what's your ROI? The return on the investment, anything you can tap into on a return on your investment, do it. That's why if you want additional business advice, go see the SBDC. In addition to, if you are developing something and you need a cash injection of $150,000, $500,000 and you're too terrified to put 100% equity in your property for an SBA loan, one option would be for you to go to the MTC and apply for this quarterly grant. The caveat to that is that the MTC will grant you, if you pass all the criteria, that they will get a small equity share in it. So it's a grant, but it also allows them a little bit of ownership, which when you think about it, I've got mixed emotions about that because it's government funding, but at the same time, it's also smart in the fact that it can generate revenue for the MTC. Not that I ever think that the General Assembly would pull money out of the MTC, but it actually gets it to a point where the MTC could be self-funded and the General Assembly would have to get to a point where they would not have to put as much money into it. So a couple ways you can look at that. So this is quarterly. So we've got the deadline for this one right now is November 15th, which is too short for now for anybody. However, if you know of anybody, especially if it's technical based, if you know somebody that has an idea about doing anything that has to do with technology, an app, a process, whatever it is, then I really encourage you to apply for this. And if any of you want to meet with me and sit down and we'll go over this in detail before you do that, holler at me right at the chamber, 624-4150, and dive into this and look at it. It's real heavy in St. Louis and Kansas City. What many of you may not know here in Southwest Missouri is that everybody in Kansas City and St. Louis, especially on the government side, thinks of all of the rest of us, it's referred to as outstate. Much like in New York, anything outside the city is considered upstate. we have a disparity in the fact that there are a lot of companies in St. Louis and Kansas City that are getting a large share of this type of grant money. But when you look at what we have, some of the companies I just mentioned, whether it's in Midwestern, which they don't need a grant, but we do have a large tech sector. So why can't we have more small businesses and startups tap into that, because there are resources for them? So those are the things I wanted to visit with you about at this 1 Million Cups, kind of a state of the state for the Joseph Newman Innovation Center. Let everybody know about this. Here's what I'm asking for. I am amazed at the number of people that come into the chamber, and when I mention the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, they say, I had no idea this existed. I've lived here all my life. I didn't even know the Joe existed. I didn't know we had a business incubator. So what I'm asking for is your help to get the word out. Because the Joe opened in September of 2006. It's been a minute. And we've got a great track record. And it is an incredible resource. And part of my vision would be to see the need grow so much, and for us to have more small businesses growing to the point where we would have to really look at the possibility of turning that south parking lot into a garage with a building on top of it and expanding our incubator. Because by doing that, if we can create 50 full-time jobs in 3 years on 11,000 square feet, imagine if we leverage the mission of what Joe Newman had in his mind, and we had another 100,000 square feet. So I need your help getting the word out. And if you know of anybody that wants to start a business, or they're thinking about starting a business, I would love to sit down and visit with them, and it doesn't matter if it's after 5 o'clock. So if you guys have got questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Yes?
How are you currently getting the message out about the Joe?
Question is, how are we currently getting the word out about the Joe? Well, the next thing I'm going to say is sound like I'm complaining, and I'm not. But I was self-employed for 21 years, and for the last 3 years I've been a W-2 employee, so I'm not 100% in control of my clock, and I've got certain responsibilities. Part of that is working with small businesses, entrepreneurs, but I also operate as a property manager over the 55,000 square feet of a 72-year-old building with the ATTC that has a personality and demands my attention. There's also the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, which is a lot more well-behaved. However, to answer your question, as we move forward, anything that I can do for outreach to get in front of Rotary groups, even if they're within 30 or 40 miles, because that story is a powerful one. Because if there's a small company that wants to start a business and say their spouse works in Joplin, they could just come up and be in the Joe. So community outreach is that, but the incubator also has its own Facebook page, and I try and keep things updated there. I will tell you that in 2024, as hopefully things will change, and I'm lobbying our chamber president, Travis Stevens, a lot on it, is some of the clock time that I can't control, to have more control over that so that I can start producing content to share the stories, the success stories of the people that have gone through the Joseph Newman Innovation Center and help get the word out that way. Great question. Yes? Oh.
Have you had like a morning brew at the Innovation Center?
We did in 2021. That's a great idea. When we opened up our Co-working East and Co-working West, we catered in breakfast. We had a coffee truck out there, but we haven't done that since. But we should, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Yes.
Have you thought about adding an assistant to help with the time management as well as?
Well, the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit. Budgets are tight. So if you're offering to sponsor to support a position like that, I'd entertain that idea.
I'm offering to help.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny. Mike, you had a question?
Just a comment. Perhaps you could have your tenants help promote the fact that they're there and that was their incubator to get them going in any kind of publication, send out what they do, and they can help you get the word out as well. So you got a whole, what do they call it, 5 or 10 different people or 100 people that are helping you.
Right. That's great.
I love that idea. That's a great idea, actually. So then you take, for example, next gen diagnostics,
Right.
similar to like a co-branding, proud to have started in with a link.
Exactly. You could have different, you know, currently there or past, present, or future, whatever,
Right.
however they want to just phrase a couple of words different.
That is a brilliant idea, and I'm going to pursue that.
I helped it with that. Just so
Did you? I could probably move faster on that if I had Johnny sponsor a position for us. Are we playing tennis? Any other questions?
By the way, I've been in business for 50 years. There's still people who don't know where Granny Schaefer is. Have never heard of it. I can't believe it. They've lived there their whole life.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So, yeah, quick story on the aging thing. Last week when Mike and Jennifer were up here and we had our inaugural thing here, I made the comment about what they could name things on the menu. And I referenced when there was an A-frame steel building sitting on this corner lot prior to 1973. It was here in the 50s and 60s, and it was called Griff's Burger Barn. And it was just a field, and back behind Griff's Burger Barn was this dirt road that went down and came out by where Skyway Buick is now. And I said, hey, you could name something on your menu, Griff's Burger. And it was like crickets in the room, and I'm just like, I need to quit telling some of these stories. That's like a little too old, So, but anyway, thank you all for your time, and I appreciate you supporting us.